All right, so today we're going to talk about rocks. Yes, rocks. I know this sounds weird. So maybe you've heard of this story, but there's a popular analogy used in business leadership articles and talks. So basically, how the story goes is there's an employee. She's asked by her boss to bring the boss a rock. So she goes out, gets a rock, brings it back to the boss, and the boss says, "This isn't the rock I wanted. I wanted a heavier rock." So the employee goes out and finds a heavier rock and brings it to the boss. And the boss responds, "This isn't the rock I asked for. I wanted a smooth, flat, black rock, not this round, rough, gray rock." So this cycle continues until the boss finally asks someone else to go get the rock. And the original employee, she's left feeling deflated, wondering where she may have gone wrong, even though she thought she was delivering all along what the boss was asking for. So I know it's a silly story, but I think in this simple analogy, we can see easily how this relates to design projects, right? Sometimes clients don't know what they want until they see it, or they don't know what they don't want until they see it. So sometimes they're not quite sure how to articulate what they're looking for, right? Has anybody had this experience before in any of your projects? Let me know if you have. So it can be, of course, as the designer, incredibly frustrating or confusing when we're just trying to do a good job for the client. We want to get it right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So in case we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Amy Farrell. I'm a longtime graphic designer and design studio co-owner. And after 20 plus years of gathering experience in design and running my own business, I get to pass on lessons that I've learned to other graphic designers, creatives, and freelancers like you. So I want to help you enjoy your design process more. I want to help you get your valuable time back by skipping some of the mistakes that I've made over the years. So hopefully save you some time. And I want to help you create lasting, profitable client relationships without losing your mind. So back to our rock story. Let's break this down a bit and try to help our employee. So in this case, of course, our employee is a graphic designer for our purposes, and the boss is our client, okay? So I think that first off, the designer or the employee failed to ask one very important question of the client when she first was asked to find a rock. And you guys probably know what that is. So if you do, pop it in the comments. What I think she should have asked right away is, "Okay, boss, what will this rock be used for? What purpose does it need to serve? Like, are you planning to throw it? Is it needed to prop up a table leg because your table's wobbly? Will you use it as a foundation so you can build a house?" So just having an answer to that one question would have dramatically improved this designer's chances of success in presenting the right rock to the client, right? So if the client said, "I need this rock to prop up a table leg," the designer would then realize that a small flat rock, hopefully matching the color of the table, would be ideal. And she could have suggested that to the client to see if that's what the client was envisioning, and then she could have been on her way to success. So of course, this is a silly example, but you can see how simple this approach is and how when we apply it to our design projects, it can dramatically make the design process more focused and easier to execute and make getting valuable feedback so much easier. So having a purpose or a defined goal makes all the difference in your projects. So we may think as designers that designing a brochure for a client seems like a pretty straightforward task, right? But what if we ask the client and went a little deeper? Okay, what do you hope this brochure will do for you? Maybe they're thinking they wanted a simple brochure with their logo and their list of services and contact information. But by asking this question, we're inviting them to think bigger and more strategically. So sure, this brochure is going to tell people who you are, and that's great, but wouldn't it be even better to create a piece that maybe creates leads for this client's business? So what if you and the client decide that the purpose of the brochure is to actually grow the client's lead database, which hopefully leads us to sales, right? So in that case, you might suggest they include the offer of a free consultation on the brochure. Or perhaps if someone signs up for their newsletter, they'll receive a free PDF download or a report that would be helpful for the potential customer's business. So you can see how this brochure now has a very specific purpose and becomes a more valuable tool for the client than simply a basic brochure that most people will throw out, right? So now, knowing the specific purpose of the brochure, each time feedback is requested and received from the client, the designer has this goal as the driving factor behind the design. So if the client says in their feedback, for example, that they want to add more text about the history of the company, but you remind them, well, the goal here is to draw attention to the free consultation portion of the brochure so you get more leads. The client might say, oh yeah, you're right. So we probably shouldn't add more text. We should make that free consultation part of the brochure larger so it can get the reader's attention. So another example, let's say we're working on a design for a client, and this is kind of another example of a different type of feedback you might get. Say we're working on a design for a client and their feedback is something like, can you make it look more modern? Okay, we get this a lot. I feel like as designers, these terms that kind of get tossed out that, you know, depending on how you view things, you might have one interpretation of what this term means and the client may have another interpretation of what the term modern means, right? So the client might think they're giving you specific feedback, but like I said, I think we all know that there are various subjective interpretations of what modern looks like. So in cases such as this, I would actually go back and ask the client questions to get more specific. And I would even go browse the internet for some examples of what I think they may mean by modern, and then send them to the client and they can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And if you get a thumbs down, tripping over my words here. I would often ask the client for them to go find some examples of what they think modern means and send them to me so that we can be sure we're on the same page and moving forward in the direction that they're picturing in their head, right? So that can be really helpful just to kind of define what some of the feedback is that you're getting from the client. And one more quick piece of advice, and you know, I hope this is a very rare or never occurrence for you, but I don't want to leave it unsaid because it is a trap that we can fall into, and I have many times in the past. So feedback should always be presented to you in a constructive and respectful manner. So if a client is ever demeaning or rude or tears you down on a personal level, you need to put a stop to that behavior immediately. Okay, you're a professional and you deserve to be treated like one. So, and you know, no one deserves to be treated that way. So please stand up for yourself and be ready to enforce your boundaries when needed. So to recap kind of what we talked about, 3 tips for getting valuable feedback on a project so you can move forward with ease. So number 1, know the purpose of the design piece that you're working on. Be clear on the why of the project. What is the purpose of the design piece? What does it need to do? What result does it need to achieve? Even if you're in the middle of the project and some of the stuff hasn't been figured out, you can still go back and ask these questions to get the progress back on track. So I don't want you to feel, you know, like you're stuck or it's a lost cause if you're in the middle of the project and things aren't going well. You can still go back with your client and really nail down that purpose. And number 2, define the feedback so it's specific and clear to you. So if the client uses subjective terms to describe what they're looking for, like modern, retro, terms like that, take the time to define what they're envisioning through a deeper conversation and some visual examples so that you are sure that you're both thinking along the same lines. And then number 3, respect. Feedback should always be constructive and helpful. Don't accept anything less. All right, I hope that's helpful for you. If you want to go deeper and get more support from myself and other designers, you can join me in my free private Facebook group for designers. It's called Designing Success. I will drop the link here with this video and would love to meet you. All right, have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.